Call this meeting to order. We would like to acknowledge that the land we stand upon today is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Neutral peoples. Can I please get a mover and a seconder for confirmation of the agenda? Moved by Councillor Morrison, second by Councillor Deal. All those in favor? There was a note added to the agenda that there are 2 extra items on the closed session, just so everybody's aware of that. Okay. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest from any member of council at this time? Seeing none, can I get a mover and a seconder for the minutes of the previous meeting? Moved by Councillor Wilby, second by Councillor Chartrand. And that the council of the municipality of Huron needs to approve the following council meeting minutes as circulated. The regular meeting of November 4th of 2025 and the public meeting of November 4th of 2025. Any comments or questions on the minutes? All those approved. And motion carries. There are a number of items under the consent agenda. Is there anything that anybody would like to have pulled and discussed? Dr. Newell.
If we could pull 6.5, Township of Brudenell, Lindock, and Raglan with regards to swimming.
We can deal with that right now and then just pass the other ones afterwards. What would you like to do?
I was just going to say that I think the resolution that they put forward that swimming be part of the curriculum, educational curriculum for students in Ontario. I think given the fact that accessibility to swimming is difficult for some people, and it's an important life skill, and I think that it would make sense that that's available for children in the school system.
Okay. I take it you're moving support for the letter, second by Councillor Deal. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Is there any other item that anybody would like to have pulled at this time? Seeing none. Can I get a mover and a seconder to accept the rest? Councillor Deal, Deputy Mayor. But the consent agenda, item 6.1 to 6.7 be received for information, except for 6.5, which we've already dealt with. All those in favor? Motion carried. Under public meetings, hearings, and delegations, our first delegation. Presentation from David Pinbuck, General Manager, ABCA, pre-2026 budget and municipal levies. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Good evening. So Don Pinbuck, Sullivan Bayfield Conservation Authority, General Manager, Secretary, Treasurer. Been in that role now for a year and a half. Previous to that, about 23 years in various positions with the authority. So it's been a good, rewarding career. First of all, I want to thank you, Mayor McClellan and Council for having me here tonight. I also want to point out a thank you and gratitude for our current chair of the ABCA board, Ray Chartrand. Also, last sort of kind of housekeeping here for me is welcoming Tina Crown here in the Sullivan Bayfield Conservation Authority. She's our financial resources coordinator. So with the presentation, there's a few things that we're going to talk about. One is, I know I was asked to come speak to the budget. The other piece was there's an opportunity here to talk a little bit about the programs and services of the authority. And in light of what's happened in the last 2.5 weeks, as far as provincial announcements, I'm going to take an opportunity to share some slides and some points. Certainly have some discussion if there's any questions on the provincial proposal. We can go through that. So there's 2 presentations. One is on the budget. I don't know if we want to start with the budget or we want to start with the authority programs and services.
We can go however you want, Devin. If you want to do your presentation and then we'll discuss the numbers, see if it's worth it.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Okay, perfect. That's it. Yeah, thanks again. So we can actually jump to the next slide here. What I want to highlight, it really is our watershed and the services that we provide within our watershed. And just to put it into context, really, if you look at the map here, the Sullivan Bayfield Conservation Authority is one of 36 current conservation authorities in the province. We know where we are locally. We're in the Lake Huron watershed. To give an idea of where the conservation authorities stretch across the province, there's a population of about 10 million people that live within conservation authority watershed boundaries right now. We know the ones in the Southern Ontario. There are also conservation authorities in the north. There's Lakehead Region in Thunder Bay, the Sault Ste. Marie, there's the Nickel District in Sudbury, there's the Matagami, and the North Bay Mattawa, they're quite far north. They show a little bit on the map there. What the map on the right shows, though, is the Huron East falls within the ABCA's watershed. Yeah, next slide, please. Good. It really, this word local is gonna come out a lot, and something that we're really focused on right now, more hyper vigilant than anything, is we are the local voice for conservation in this watershed. Right? It is us and our members that allow us to deliver these programs and services to the community. One thing that you may not know is the Sauble River Conservation Authority was the first conservation authority in the province, established in 1946. That's also the year the Conservation Authorities Act came into effect. So we at ABCA have been delivering those services since 1946. That's 80 years. One thing about conservation authorities is we are watershed based. Our boundaries aren't set on political boundaries, they're set based on watersheds in which capture runoff within a specific drainage area. And so the Sauble Bayfield being Sauble Bayfield, it's really the Sauble rivers and the Bayfield River. Now we have some other large creeks and gullies along the shoreline of Lake Huron that fall within that. Overall, the watershed size is about 2,400 square kilometers. The population is actually almost 45,000 now in the watershed. And next slide, please. The one thing I want to point out here is that we reached out to the community about 12 years ago to put together what we call the conservation strategy. And in that, we had the community help design and tell us what services were important within our community, our watershed community. And with that, they established a mission and a vision. And what I want to share about the mission and the vision in this piece right here is that the words partnership and community come up. Okay. And one thing that's valuable to us is that our needs and the natural needs are in balance. Okay, so part of our role is to ensure that we achieve that. Okay, next slide. Our organizational structure, we have 12 member municipalities, ranging down basically from just about the 402. We have Adelaide Metcalfe and Warwick in the south. And in the north, we have Central Huron, Huron East and West Perth. The boundary that. Highway 23 is roughly the boundary to the east. Number of municipalities, South Huron, Middlesex Center, right down to North Middlesex and Hampton Shores. 12 member municipalities, but we're only represented by 9 board members. And it's because of the size of those municipalities within our watershed that some board members will actually represent neighboring municipalities. Our board really sets out the policies, the programs, and the budget. And the budget being something that we operate under each year. We operate in and around 30 staff, we're usually just over 30 staff. That's our full-time contingent. The staffing levels at our authority really do vary on the projects that we have ongoing at any given time. As new programs and partnerships are created, we may staff up for contract for a little bit, but generally that's the number that we're typically looking to see it. Okay, next slide, please. Service, I won't go through these all in order, but a few things I want to point out with the services. One thing that we're really trying to do, and I hope the council's seen this, is every 3 months, we provide what we call the general manager's report, which is really a highlight of staff activities, partnerships, communications, meetings, things like that we're involved with. We want to share that back just to get an idea of the breadth of what it is we're actually doing. We have programs and services that have really been categorized into 2 categories by the province. One is the category 1. These are the core mandated services that we provide. Typically, these are around flood forecasting, warning, land management, drinking water source protection. But then we also have the category 3. These category 3 projects and programs are extremely important to us because what they do is actually a very small budget item in the big picture. But what they do is they leverage in 5, 6, 7 times, depending on what the projects are, that money into our watershed to support these programs and services. Those category 3 ones are the MOUs that I think all council would have seen and signed in 2023. And those are in effect for 5 years. So those will be through March 31st of 2020. And that's our category 3. And we'll talk a little about category 1 and 3 later as we go through the budget piece. But a lot of the program service you had designed around the floodplain management. And without going into the words, I'd actually like to illustrate. So I'll use pictures for the next few slides to show you what those projects look like and what that really means to us. So next slide, please. Oh, it's coming up in 2 slides. I apologize. There's a revenue. We're actually going to hit on this really in the next presentation. But what I want to say on the leveraging piece here is if we have this is the 2024 revenue. If we look at 4.6 million of revenue, roughly 30% of that number comes from our levies. 2/3 of that is money that we're able to leverage for and bring in. And that leverage could also be self-generated revenue. But that's the point I wanted to show on that slide there, was that it's for every it's $1 raised locally, we're looking at 2.5 to 3 times that as we leverage it for our programs. And the next slide. This is the one I'm not gonna actually get into detail about the various programs and services. I'm gonna show these through photos, but you can get an idea there. This is the biggest thing we do as far as on the ground is the environmental monitoring piece. And with that, we'll jump to the next slide and start talking about some of these actual programs and services. Floodplain management being category 1. This is one that we think of conservation authorities. That's one of the things that comes to mind is our permits, our flood forecasting and warning. And really, we look at floodplain management. What the intent of the program is designed to keep people out of the hazard. The primary one in this case here being that of flooding. We also have the erosion hazard, dynamic beaches. There's other ones as well. But the big one in this case, we're looking at flooding. And for areas where there's development already existing in floodplain areas, we have the flood forecasting and warning program. The other thing we've done in place to protect those structures and developments within floodplain areas is having a number of flood control structures and a number of erosion control structures. So we operate 20 of those across our watershed, a couple of those being in Huron East. Next slide, please. So the various sources of monitoring, I'm gonna just highlight on a few of these here because a lot of it is in and around water. Water is really core to what we do. And when I say water, I'm also talking about the landscape and the movement of water over the landscape, movement of water, the movement of soils. So a number of programs are really hitting on those. The first on the top left is we do local water sampling. We do it for community groups, resident associations. We also do it for the province, right? As part of a broader program. On the top right, we also do electrofishing. So it's a service that we provide for drain classification, which gives classifications for the drain to speed up the drain maintenance review process. On top of that, we may also do that for species at risk where we have funding from the feds or we have provincial funding, whatever that project might be, we will also do that level of sampling. On going clockwise, the bottom right, there's also benthic invertebrates. So we will actually sample benthic invertebrates every year, and that's another key indicator of water quality. Well, it's not just the quality itself, but it's the invertebrates that live within those systems. To do that, we also do through species at risk funding. We have mussel sampling sites that we revisit. A lot of that's in partnership with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. So that's what the crew of 5 are doing there in the river. They're actually mussling. And there's also the Provincial Groundwater Monitoring Network, where we have a series of 16 wells across our watershed that we monitor for water level and for water quality. And next slide, please. The biggest thing I want to show here is community. The community, we've been very active through our watershed-based resource management strategy and through our conservation strategy to get community input to drive the programs that we do, but also use the results from those programs to drive not only delivering the results, but drive the projects that we do on the landscape. So the key there is that if I touch on anything here, it's the community, it's the engagement of the community, and having the community drive the work that we're doing. Next slide, please. Education, another one here. This one here is a category 3. This is one that all 12 member municipalities have elected to be part of. This is a very important one. Say nothing else is, but this one here this has really grown in our watershed as far as the delivery of conservation education. The one thing I'll point out, it is curriculum based, so we have to follow the school boards what those curriculums are. And they're always watershed themed, so there's something that in the realm of the conservation that we would deliver. Do it through school programs, presentations. We have a day camp program that's actually expanded significantly from 2 weeks per summer to 6. Various special events. We just had an owl prowl on November 7th at our office where we have, I don't know exactly, more than 100 community members will come and actually get to listen for owls and get hands-on with owls that are brought in for them to learn with. So it's not just about the kids either. There's a continued learning, but there's also this work we do in the community. So we'll reach out and go through our conservation areas and run programs at our conservation areas that are available to many more local libraries as well. Another place that we can offer our services. All right, next slide, please. Drinking water source protection. This is a category 1 that the province said is a mandated program. And I'll point this out. This when In 2000, when the Washington tragedy occurred, Justice O'Connor, one of the outcomes was to safeguard drinking water in Ontario. And the Clean Water Act was introduced. One of the outcomes of that was to basically develop source protection regions, of which the Assault Bayfield and Maitland Valley are part of the same region. So with these regions, there's 19 of them in the province. Looking at wellhead protection zones. So and anywhere that's getting municipal water from a well is managing and protecting the activities within that wellhead capture area. There's also intake protection zones on the Lake Huron shoreline where the drinking water sources are coming out of the lake. One thing I will mention here is that within our region, there are only 9 municipalities that are actually affected by this, and each would have a risk management official. The other key piece here is that drinking water source protection, and this will come back when I talk about the budget later, is that drinking water source protection is fully funded by the province. There aren't local levy dollars into the source protection program. Next slide, please. Okay, land stewardship. So another one of those outreach programs that we do. The idea of this is that we truly are linking landowners with funding where and when it's available. And that those funding tools and avenues and streams change all the time. By staying on top of that, we're able to provide the services or the various programs that are available at the time to the residents of the watershed. And so we can reach out through site visits, explore different options of soil management, water management, those types of things in the landscape. But provide that technical advice. One of the biggest programs we have is our tree planting program. And the uptake of that is incredible. What just here on East alone, if I go back to 2024 to see the number from our annual report, we here on East had 24 individual unique stewardship projects through our programs that year. One of the other big ones that we're doing really focused on right now is wetlands. Wetlands and headwater retention, trying to keep the water, the top end of the watershed to help limit the impacts of flooding and erosion downstream. So a lot of these things tie together, and it's really important to note that we got land stewardship, we've got water quality monitoring, we've got flood forecasting warning. These programs all interrelate. What we do with land stewardship impacts on the ultimate impact of a flood event. And we see it at the different scales, but certainly trying to tie the linkages between all these is that all these things that we're doing are really part of the big picture of floodplain management. So, next slide. This picture just shows, again, as I mentioned, these different funders aren't available at all times. You know, part of our staff, the task for us is to go out and look for opportunities. But the various things that we're doing on the ground, cover crop planting, grass waterways, buffer strips, tree planting, what's a windbreak there? I'm trying to read that properly, but windbreak planting, a whole pile of things. But really, when it comes back to what we're doing with our stewardship, is we're looking at protecting soil and managing water. Next slide, please. And another piece, of course, the Conservation Authority is known for, and again, this is a Category 1 program. The province recognized that we need to keep doing. We really saw the importance of our conservation areas and the recreation during the COVID pandemic. Because that really, at that time, nature was one of the only outlets for us. And we've seen an uptick in those using our conservation areas. We expected that number to kind of fall over the years, you know, after COVID. Those numbers haven't dropped. Those numbers keep growing. So we're seeing that. It's critical for community recreation, exercise, and mental well-being. And ultimately, really, it's all about creating that connection with nature. It's an opportunity to get out, somewhere to go, to have that appreciation. Okay. And next slide, please. Any questions on the programs and services before I jump into some high level?
It is an amazing list, and certainly we do run into it from time to time on different things, whether it's here or at the county, about different programs that conservation authorities are involved in. But you know, when you take just a quick glance at the budget, it seems out of proportion when $1.5 million and only 20,000 of it is for capital, and the rest just as projects. So it looks like we're spending a whole bunch of money on labor, but not actually doing anything. It's not a good view when you just look at it that way.
Yeah, if I may, so with the capital piece, So we do put away money for reserves every year through special benefiting levies for our structures. It's interesting that one of the requirements of the province by the end of 2024 was to have our capital asset management plan in place, which we didn't have. So we thought, well, this is an opportunity to not just do it for just the flood and erosion control structure, let's do it for the whole authority to get a plan in place. So last year was the first year we implemented a capital levy piece. Basically, we stretched it. We know what the number we needed was $200,000. We stretched that out over 10 years. And that's why you'll see, and I'll talk about that in the levy piece, that in 2025, we had the $20,045 was that first piece. We're proposing for 2026 to have the $20,045. So you actually, it's a 100% increase. And then the next year, another $20,000. That's the 10-year plan. And then that increase, of course, the percentage increase goes down, but recognizing that we had to have a capital asset management plan in place for sure.
And maybe I should rephrase the comment I made. I understand the necessity and the importance of a lot of the programs that you do, but I'm not sure that the message is really out there to the public that unless they've had a reason to be involved with you, maybe doesn't understand the services you provide. I know, same thing, I sit on public health. Until COVID came along, most people didn't even know public health existed. That it just wasn't an agency that ever crossed anybody's path. Since we're putting tax dollars to it, is there a better way to get the message out to the general public so they understand? Like 2% of our budget goes towards this. 2% doesn't sound like a lot, but every time we have to raise it 1%, we gripe about it. Is there a better way to get the message out to the public so that they recognize the work that you're actually doing for the general public as a whole?
Yeah, and certainly, yes, it's a question in basic terms, yes. One thing we are doing right now, we're really asking ourselves the same question as we're going through these changes the province has put down on us. Is okay, how do we, for those that haven't worked with us in a positive stewardship outreach area, our municipal partners certainly know and have worked with us in the floodplain management aspect. Work with a lot of rural landowners with the stewardship programs. It's yeah, there's a piece of self-advertising there that these are the program service we deliver, and maybe to a lot of people in their day-to-day lives they don't see that. Like I certainly see your point on that, but it's very important for our team, our members to also share and spread the good work that we do too.
Councilor Chartrand?
You're gonna see later on in the presentation that the levies are also based on the number that's generated and demanded by the province, that our board of directors has no say in it. This is the number, similar to our taxes that we have in our houses, and that's part of the levy. And he'll break that out later on for you.
Yeah, for sure. So this piece here right now, so on October 31st, the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks made an announcement that they're going to form the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency. And with that agency, a number of initiatives will come out of that. One of the biggest thing, and there's certainly some good things here as far as consistencies between conservation authorities, having the support conservation authorities, streamline application process for permits, consistent permit fees, things like that. There's opportunities. There's some good points being raised here. The other piece to this was the consolidation of conservation authorities. So it was November the 6th, Bill 68 came out, introduced the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency and the proposed changes to the Conservation Authorities Act. So those changes to the act were to include a new section 35, that allowed the creation of the, I'm going to call it the OPCA, be created, talked about what the role of the OPCA was going to be, the funding of the OPCA, the governance of the OPCA, and the big piece of the OPCA being this idea to consolidate conservation authorities from 36 in the province to 7. And again, this is proposed, and I'll show a slide afterwards just to show exactly what it is they're proposing. But those are the big things out of the OPCA. If we go to the next slide, I'll point out a few other bullets here as to why. why they wanted to do this, or why they want to do this. One of the biggest pieces was that they identified that a large number of municipalities have 2 or more conservation authorities within their municipality. By doing this, what they proposed right now, they've actually reduced that by 63%. So 63% less municipalities are gonna have more than 1 conservation authority. However, what that also means is that in the proposed conservation authority, the regional conservation that we're looking at, there is now going to be 78 municipalities. So, yeah, in the context of that, there's some challenges. The biggest challenge is the effective local representation. Where's our voice on a regional scale like that? You know, right now we're served by 9 board members, right? That are directing us as a solid base for conservation authority representing 12 municipalities. What's the governance structure look like on a regional scale, and where's that local governance? And I'm asking the questions too, because I don't know, but I certainly know what our response is and what we're recommending. Okay. We need to have, if we want to have local input, we need to have local input if we want local action. And so that governance structure, that's one of the, and as a term that was shared with me today in the Ministry of Environment, Conservation, Parks and Information session, was to be determined. This consultation period, I'll talk about in a second here, is extremely important because the clock's already ticking as to what and how we want that local representation to look like. And I'll share this, we are on Thursday, the board is looking at a resolution, and that resolution is being recommended to share with member municipalities, counties, AMO, Roma, the minister, the ministry. There's a whole slew of conservation authorities, Conservation Ontario, have all been recognized in that. And we're happy to share that with where it is, what we're thinking, also the ERO posting, the response that we're looking to make on that and sharing that. And you know, others can do what they can or will with it. Right, so yeah, next slide. Okay, these are not necessarily what in the red text you'll see there, the above is as indicated by the province. These aren't my words, I'm sharing with the messaging they told us. I have a lot of questions when I look at these as well. You know, Ray and I have been in how many meetings in the last 2 weeks, Ray? 4? Yeah, and 3 next week. Yeah, you and I have 2 next week. There's enough going on for sure. So, in the province's words, what these changes will mean: more resources for frontline service. Okay, what's frontline service? I would stand here and argue that frontline service is our board of directors. It's our staff. We're accountable. We're locally accountable. We're reachable. We're the ones delivering the programs and services. I don't know how you can be any more frontline than that. So, improved flood management, erosion prevention. Yes, there's going to be conservation authorities that will really benefit from this. I don't want to say that we wouldn't have some benefit, but we are one of the few conservation authorities right now that actually have flood forecasting software that we can operate and predict stream flows in a rainfall snowmelt event and get that information out in a timely manner. The other one is strong environmental protections maintained. They're saying that's going to happen. That's of course that's our common desire. Faster permit rules, I get that one. If we can do that, more modernized service delivery, great. What's not changing is the areas currently served by CAs. What that really means is any area in the province right now, currently within a conservation area watershed, will remain a conservation area watershed. It just won't be in their proposal the local CA that we know. It'll be their regional CA, but the watershed extent will remain the same. Province. No better way to put it is there's gonna be not even extra square kilometer added to the boundaries of the conservation authorities. The programs and services, the confirmation of that today is that it's category 1, category 3. Category 1 are the mandatory ones, gonna happen, they're gonna be supported. Category 3, all agreements, partnerships are gonna be supported so we can deliver those programs to the community. The how and where we receive our funding, it's not supposed to change. There's a big question that I have is how does that not change? You know, with our local boards right now and our municipalities that are members into the Conservation Authority, how can we ensure that doesn't change under a regional framework? And CA's relationships with municipalities, developers and landowners. I hope they don't change, or if they change, they get better. Each CA being an independent municipally governed organization. Right, so when you think of that, each CA, if they're really saying there, everything we can tell right now, those CAs are the regional CAs. So independent municipally governed organization, not part of the provincial government.
Yeah, this is a comment on what you said the province said, but they're talking about consistent standards. Are they saying that the standards across all the conservation authorities are not consistent now?
There are different, I'll give you one quick example of different standards, but there certainly are. The flood standard. You know, we use Hurricane Hazel. Some conservation authorities are using the 1 in 100, or the 1 in 200, the Timmins storm, or the Harrow. There's different event standards. That's just a very simple one I can pick up real quick. But certainly policies vary across conservation authorities. But as a municipality here, in this case here, and I'm not familiar with the main policies, but yeah, they're different. They're different. And so it does, and that's what the whole issue of having municipalities with a number of CAs can make things more complicated. That's the argument that they're making. We have a municipality in our watershed, Middlesex Center has 5 conservation authorities in it. And all 5 operate differently. So, yeah, I guess next slide. So timelines and key messages. Some of this we've already passed, some of these milestones, but I'll kind of walk through these. Really, the message that we've been given by the province that we're also giving staff and our members is that it's business as usual. Okay, we're gonna continue to operate. We say without disruption, we're gonna continue to provide services. If you came to us right now, you would not know things changed. And that's the intent as we work through this, is that you don't see the changes on the ground level. We will work through the changes. Staff will maintain, no job losses. CAs are committed to watershed protection at the local level. The big piece there, and I really stress this right now, is what is local. I want to make sure local is local to us, not local to the region. The consultation period, so on November 7th, the ERO posting came out for 45-day posting. So we're now for a week and some beyond that for 45 days. So December 22nd is the last day that you post any comments to the ERO post. Okay. As it's saying right now is the plan would be that the existing board, our board of directors, serves business as usual till fall elections 2026. And the province has mentioned that in their announcements. At that time, the question is the governance change. What does that governance structure look like? That's where these ERO postings are important, that we help shape anything that's to be determined in 2026 as to how this might look and how we ensure that we maintain our local say. That's a big piece we're going to be working through next year for sure. Consolidations themselves wouldn't actually take place until probably early 2027. It's our best guess, but that's not a one and done deal. We had some verification today from the province that this may occur in phases, multiple phases.
7 years.
Each phase could be several years. By the time everything is done to what the government uses the term playbook, how that rolls out in their playbook. But really, as I mentioned, I'll come back to the OPCA. Their goal is to support this transition. And next slide. This is the one. If you haven't seen this one already, this just gives you an idea as to what the province is proposing right now with the 7 regions. And then just, I don't point here, but just to point out where we are, the Stable Bay Conservation Authority, if you look at the light blue on the left, just to the east of Lake Huron, that's a Stable Bay field. That will include the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority, Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, Grey Stable Conservation Authority, working your way east, Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, and ultimately Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority. Saying vastly different watersheds. You think of Lake Simcoe, Newmarket, Barrie, that area. Here's the wild one, Lakehead region, Thunder Bay and Lake Superior. So the proposed region is the Huron Superior Regional Conservation Authority. Yeah, it's tough to imagine what we might have in common with Lakehead region. But that's it as proposed. And if you look at it, it's almost broken down by Great Lakes. The one put it in the blue there that doesn't change is Toronto Region Conservation Authority. it maintains it's solar, it's called Central Lake Ontario. But if you look at the blue and the values of the blue, it's your Toronto Conservation. So that's really it on the update portion from what the OPCA is, what the province is proposing. It's the proposed mapping. Any other questions right now?
Are you putting together a whole list of questions to put into your comments for the province at this time?
We are, yeah. And one of the other big things is not just the questions, the solutions. What we've got to offer. Okay, the ERO posting actually has 5 questions they spell out. And so we're gonna answer all 5 of those. We're gonna touch on all these with solutions. But anything that we don't have answers on, we are going to put forward because we really want to ensure that if this is going ahead and happening, that we have our input, and one of the things we really want to push is having these technical working groups or local regional working groups to make sure that this happens with our interest in mind. And not just what the province.
The resolution will explain all that too.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. So if you want to roll with the other presentations, then we'll talk more about the actual budget. We can advance to the next slide. Yeah, there we go. Just a little background on how we put together our budget at ABCA. We have every year, we develop a 5-year forecast where we look at our needs and what projects we want to go ahead and how those might fit into the budget come, this case, we're talking the 2026 budget. So we had a list of identified projects. How can we make do these projects in a manageable sense? I say fiscally. So we start off, the number I'll share with you, when we started off the original budget, if we had our whole 5-year forecast in place, was 19.7% is what we were looking at as an increase for 2026. We know that's not reasonable, but we also know we have a lot of key projects that we have to do at some point. So what we were able to do by really prioritizing, moving some around, we were able to get that number down. So when we presented to our board, we had 6.3%. So we got it down about $200,000 to that number. So we look at the projects that are there and the direction of the board on various projects, we were actually able to get it down to 4% was the direction. But with the help of the board, as prioritizing certain projects, moving some projects, phasing them over multiple years, we're able to get that down to 3.93% for 2026, sorry. To give you an idea of how we got to the number that we are actually looking at right now. The one thing I talked about it already a little bit was the capital levy piece. That was new 2025. It is there in 2026. That's something that was not there historically. Okay? And as I said, it's a 10-year plan, and we're trying to phase that in over 10 years to get to the number that if we need. We have $28 million worth of flood and erosion control structure that we are responsible for. Yeah, so there's the maintenance, but if something should go wrong, that we have that to do that. Yes, the other piece on there that I'll point out that I want to talk about too is the capital. So there's the capital levy, but the category 1, but also the category 2 levies on there. So there's category 3, not category 2. Category 1, category 3. So you'll see them on there, and we combine those to get a combined levy. Okay. If we look at just those components without the capital levy, that 3.93% is really 2.62%. It's actually less, but the capital levy is a portion of it that we recognize we need to have. The other piece I'll say here for Huron East, if we look at the slide, you can see here on East on there, it's the 4th down from the top anyways. Just to give an idea of what those numbers are here in East. Well, we have a watershed average of 3.93%. The actual increase based on this for Huron East is 4.38%. Okay. How we get to this number, and what I'll say real quick too, is that number does vary by year. Last year was a 1.98% increase for the average levy of 3.91. So it does vary. One of the key drivers to all this is what's called the cost value apportionment. That number, as Ray mentioned, that number is the numbers provided to us by the Ministry of Natural Resources from the province. In fact, that's the number that they give us as an apportionment value by municipality NRCA. And that number for 2026 is 4.58%, I believe. Double check that on my thing, so yeah, 4.58. Last year, that number was 4.56. So what that is that's the percentage of the total levy. And that would be apportioned out to Huron East, and that's how we get to the number that we got to. Any questions on the other part of the levy is the next slide, actually, it's the special benefiting. This one here. So this one here really looks at the structure. The key ones that we're looking at right now is the Bayfield River, it's erosion control, but we have the Seaforth flood control, what we call the CNR culvert, but that's where the GXR crossing is. And you'll see that that number is actually slightly down. It's a $3,785, where last year was $4,058. So it's actually decreased slightly. The special benefiting levy over the entire conservation authority is $92,965. So there's two structures in here in East that we maintain part of this, of the 20 that we have in the Solid Bayfield Conservation Authority's watershed. Right, the next slide, please. Okay. So this one is just a roll on of our, and if there's any questions on it, because there's a few that I'll point out here, there's a couple here that I do want to talk about. Is if we look at some of the numbers in the revenue side. The one thing I want to point is the third down. Okay, it's the operating levy capital one projects. Those I want to point out because it's $191,000, and you see it's an increase over what we actually did last year. However, part of this, as we were directed by the board, was to look at the dam safety review, but to not do it in 1 year. So we're actually spreading that dam safety review over 2 years. The other piece is the hydrology model that we're doing. As I mentioned before, we are one of the only conservation authorities, there's a few of us that have flood forecasting and warning software that we're able to use. And while we have a really good system, it's also DOS based. So it's old, but we know it very well. The problem is that support doesn't last forever. In fact, I'll say the term we're using, an emulator on our Windows machines to run the DOS program. So in 2024, that's when we went to the board, said, hey, we need to look at upgrades for this. We need something that's we'll probably use this DOS-based one, I'm not gonna lie, for 10 years. As we develop a new one and get comfortable, it'll be a calibration tool, if nothing else, as we get the new model. But we're looking at a hack product. But what we were able to do, spread that model over 3 years. And so these are some of the reasons why we're able to keep that number in check. But I want to put out some of the big projects that they're special projects that we're investing in right now, above and beyond the standard work that we're doing. Talked with the capital levy already, but you can see that the percentage does stand out 100%. In fact, that number has gone up 100%. Right, from 2025 to 26. Under the revenue, if you look at the first prior year, just to make sense of what that's showing, it's 22% increase. That number though, that 1.3, those are existing agreements that are multi-year agreements. Drinking water source protection falls within that. A lot of our stewardship projects fall within that. A lot of we call healthy watersheds programs that we're doing to work with water quality, work on the landscape, all falls in the creation of wetlands. It's all in there as multi-year, and that's why we see that deferred under there. Looking at the expense side, a couple I'll point out here is the purchase services. What are those? Some of the most basic ones for us, and that's the contractors, any consultants for a thing like the hydrology model. It's insurance. One of the biggest costs we have for the various programs that we do is labs. It's water analysis fees that are built into the project costs. Another one's a big increase is just the maintenance and repair. That increase is really attributed to what this rock blend, one of our conservation areas, hydro installation repairs through rock blend. So I'm just pointing out though why the number is big, but that's where that increase comes from. The other one I'll point out is the wages. That's something that always seems to come back in question. Why that number is 6.4%. We look at the overall increase for the budget. There's a few things that are happening here with wages. One of the first ones is last year, for the first time in ABC's history, we actually joined OMERS. So there was a slight cost increase by joining OMERS. Realizing that our neighboring CA's municipal partners, OMERS is pretty well established. Solid Bayfield did not have OMERS. until September of this year. There's that. The other one was benefits. Benefits alone. When I talk about benefits, the increase to benefits was $15,000 to the Conservation Authority as of September of this year. And that's the authority base, 15%, just for the record, 15,000, sorry, that's almost 1% of our levy. Just in the benefit piece. So I point that out, that's one, and staff as well, that's not benefit staff, that is staff paying increased benefits for their own benefits at the same time, so it's with both those. The other one is, sure, cost of living increases. The other one is their staff moving on the grid, so as staff gain experience, develop their careers, of course, they go up the grid, so that's why that number looks there, and I'll point out, say last year, that number was 8.1% last year. So the expectation now that we have owners, hopefully the benefits don't go up, then jump like that again. But there's gonna be less staff moving the grid. That number we project, even in a 5-year forecast, that number drops. But that's where it's at. I'm gonna address it, but it's there at 6.4%. It's certainly noticeable. With that, I guess we just the next couple slides. We can come back. This question we can come back to these. There are questions on. This is the roll up as well, but this is with drinking water source protection removed. And the only thing I would say about drinking water source protection is that it's provincially funded. So there's no levy attributed to that. So these are the numbers look like without drinking water source protection. And next slide. Okay, good. I touched on these, but these are really important slides here. So we look at the proposed budget revenue for 2026. Again, I gotta point out there that about less than one third of the budget is through levy. The rest are through other sources, partnerships, dollars that we're leveraging locally and bringing back into the watershed. And a piece of that being the self-generated revenues at the Conservation Authority through various programs that we provide, tree planting being one of the biggest ones. Right, at the bottom one, budget, I broke down to give a fairly decent summary of what those different programs are and where the money goes to those programs. The environmental monitoring, of course, is the largest one within our expenses. And next slide. Okay. Well, the levy portion analysis, what I've done here is I was able to show the levy as it is right now for the proposed levy for Huron East in 2026. And that's the bold number at the bottom right, or almost the bottom right, 4.38%. To the left of that, you'll see what that dollar value is. That dollar value is $2,991. The combined levy is $71,266. And I talked about that cost value assessment. The apportionment, sorry, is the 4.58. That's the number based on the levy. That's the percent of the levy that would go to Huron East based on that number provided by the province. And just to show previous years, 2025, yeah, it's 1.98% for Huron East. 2024 is 2.3, so it varies. What I will say though, if you take last year's 2025, 2026, and you add those two numbers together, you're looking at 6.36%. If you look at the total overall authority budget in the last 2 years, was 3.91 and 3.93 to 7.8 perspective, and these numbers do fluctuate and change based on that value that we get from the province. So that's the last slide. If there are any questions further on the budget, happy to do my best to answer.
Councillor Stark.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. First of all, thank you. Excellent presentation, and I'm very confident in your representation going on. It's hard. We look at big numbers and such and that, but our conservation areas are underfunded. You're running on shoestring budgets and trying to take this and that, and I fear that if we don't stick up for ourselves here, we're gonna get run over. So thank you for sticking up for us, keep the local representation. Your first piece of tonight was community. And we're gonna lose that if it goes straight provincial. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you for recognizing that.
Any other comments? most of mine always come back to money.
I always do.
But I guess my concern about putting them all together is, you know, you talk about the fact that there's 12 municipalities, but at least you have 9 representatives, even though some handle a couple of different ones. But at least we have a voice at the table when you're doing a budget. You put 78 of them together, there's no way you're putting 78 people in a room to work on a budget, so we will lose that voice altogether, and that's gonna be a problem for us. Councilor Chartrand?
Yeah, I'll just make a comment. So in our first meeting, when we understood what their goals were by doing this, we come straight out and said, there's 4 or 5 of those things that make sense that we can do currently with our 36. You don't need to create another hierarchy of government to be able to do that. They assured us that the local representation would still be there and we would do our own budgets and such. But there's still that question as to what is this regional board of directors gonna do? One of the questions we asked today was what happens to our current assets that each conservation has? Land that we bought, land that was given to us, our investment portfolios. Like, and they said to us today, oh, you'll still manage that, but we'll oversee it. Well, what does that mean? So there's a lot of still unanswered questions, but the one thing that we're pushing is local representation. The conservation minister said, one of the questions, the 4 questions that we have to answer, we don't want this to have a negative impact. So what should we do to make this positive? And our response is need local boards and local representatives to be able to gel with the community and your member municipalities to be able to do that. So hopefully they're going to listen to us and that this isn't already concrete and they're going to take our advice and questions. So we have a lot more meetings scheduled between now and December 22nd. So, but you're right, you need your local voice to be able to do this.
Yes. Yeah, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment too, in your presentation and the province wants permits issued faster. Maitland Valley, our permit turnaround is 5.7 days. So I don't know how much faster you can do that, you know?
Yeah.
We don't stand in the way of houses being built unless somebody's trying to build it on the lake shore.
Right.
You know, we work with them as quick as we can, and at 5.7 days, that's pretty good turnaround. So it is, so just don't see what we're going to win out of this, so.
Correct.
But, other than the province taking over the conservation authority, so it's just a comment.
We're meeting next week with Maitland Valley together so that we can share ideas and that type of stuff as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much for your presentation, Doug.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
See you tomorrow morning.
We have a second delegation at this time, Committee of Adjustment, Public Meeting, Minor Variance MV 03 of 2025. So I need a motion to adjourn to go into a public meeting. Can I get a mover in a second, please? Councilor Morrison, Councilor Dalton. That the Council of the Municipality of Huron East adjourn the regular meeting of council at 6:54 p.m. To go into a public hearing of Committee of Adjustment to discuss the minor variance MV 03 of 2025. All those in favor? And motion carries. Can I get a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda for the public meeting? Deputy Mayor, Councilor Deal, that the agenda for the public hearing of Committee of Adjustment dated November 18, 2025 be adopted as circulated. All those in favor? Motion carries. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest for this portion of the meeting by any member of council? Seeing none, I turn this over to our planner.
Thank you, Mayor. So this will be the presentation for minor variance application and the 25. The property owner is here with us in the gallery today, Lawrence Martin, and the applicant is Scott Patterson from the Planning Consultants, who wasn't able to attend tonight. The subject property is located at 4368 A, Amberley Road. Go to the next slide, please. So just got a aerial photo of the subject lands outlined in orange here. So we're on Amberley Road or County Road 86. This was a property that was subject to a previous surplus severance application in 2018. So part of the reason that it's shaped as the way it is about 7 acres in size. The topographic features required it to be the setback or the building setback quite far from the road. Next slide, please. So the application proposes 2 minor variances to facilitate the development of an additional residential unit on the subject property. So the first variance is to reduce the required rear yard setback for the detached ARU from the required 7.5 meters down to 2.5 meters. And then the second variance is to permit the proposed ARU to encroach into the front yard, whereas a detached ARU is supposed to be located in either the interior side yard or rear yard. And the subject property here is zoned AG4. So the zoning is associated with our surplus severance lots and designated agriculture on the action plan. Next slide, please. So here is the proposed site plan provided by the applicant. So sorry, it's a little bit difficult to read here in the bottom right corner. In red is the proposed outline of the new ARU, and just to the left of that is the footprint of the existing residence. Next slide, please. And just a little bit easier to see on the GIS image here. The approximate location and size of the proposed ARU there. And next slide, please. So just a couple of photos of the subject property. So on the left there is the existing house. To the left of the house, you can see a bit of a gravel area. That's the approximate area proposed for the ARU. And then the image on the right there shows the there's a solar panel on the abutting farm property. So if you can go back to the air photo on the previous slide. You can see again the solar panel on the abutting farm there, and the rear lot line in this location is kind of angled such to avoid and provide an adequate buffer from that abutting solar panel. We'll leave that one up and I'll go over the policy review here. So in reviewing minor variance applications, the proposal is required to meet the intent of the hearing special plan. The official plan provides criteria for detached additional residential units in an agricultural lot, such as clustering with the existing buildings, utilizing the same driveway and having appropriate services available. In this case, all of the this criteria will be met for the proposed ARU. The new building will use the existing septic system, servicing and lateway. Part of the intent of the official plan is also to consider compatibility of agricultural uses and residential uses in an agricultural area. And this proposal is not does not pose any compatibility issues with surrounding agricultural uses. And then the proposal also needs to meet the intent of the community special plan. So looking at the requirement for an ARU, a detached ARU to locate in either the rear or interior side yard, the intent of this provision is to reduce visual impact from the road and also to ensure that the ARU is accessory to the main dwelling. In this case, the proposed unit is accessory to the main residential unit there, and is located far enough away from the road that there's no visual impact for the property here. And then the other variance requested is to vary the required rear yard setback. So the intent of the 7.5 meter setback is to ensure adequate space for mostly for maintenance and stormwater around all sides of the building. And also to provide a reasonable buffer between the different land uses that might be experienced. So with farm equipment and other agricultural uses on the abutting farmland. In this case, the proposed location maintains adequate space for maintenance and stormwater around all sides of the building. And due to that solar panel on the abutting farm, there's still adequate space for farm machinery to have an appropriate buffer between the new residential use proposed. Otherwise, the proposal is considered to be desirable for the development of the lands and is considered to be minor in nature. And as far as comments go, there was no concerns raised by Heritage staff, members of the public, or other agencies on this. I'll go to the last slide there. So as a result of the review mentioned, it's recommended that the minor variance application be approved with the following conditions, and just the standard conditions here with the 18-month approval timeline, and that the building be constructed as per the footprint accompanying the application. And I'm here for any questions on that.
Are there any questions or comments from members of council on this? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from members of the public about this application? And are there any comments or questions from the applicants on this project? None? Can I get a mover and a seconder, and then I will read the motion that was included. Councillor Deal, Councillor Wilby. That the council of the municipality of Huron East, acting as committee of adjustment, has held a public meeting pursuant to section 45 of the Planning Act 1990 with respect to minor variance application MV 03 of 2025. Whereas no comments from the public were received and whereas no agency comments were received, now therefore the Committee of Adjustment approves the minor variance application MV 03 2025 on address 43689A Amberley Road to permit the following variance from bylaw 52 of 2006. Number 1, the proposed additional residential unit be located within the general footprint and be of the approximate size denoted on the sketch that accompanied the application to the satisfaction of the municipal chief building official. 2, to reduce the required rear yard setback from 7.5 meters to 2.5 meters. 3, to permit the proposed additional residential unit ARU to encroach into the front yard, and number 4, that the variance approved is valid for a period of 18 months from the date of the committee's decision. All those in favor? Motion carries. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adjourn the Committee of Adjustment? Councillor Newell, Councillor Dalton, that the Committee of Adjustment be adjourned at 7:03 p.m. All those in favor? And motion carries. Okay, now we're down to planning. Are you just giving us an update? Is that basically what it comes down to, Shay?
Yeah, so for the Bill 60 report, just kind of an update on some of the planning department's comments on the various changes proposed for the planning act, as well as some of the comments on the consultation asks that have been outlined. There will be a report when it comes to council tomorrow morning, I believe, and that recommendation is to provide these comments to the province. So I'm here for any questions on this.
Any questions of council on this one? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to Shane. Shane, it's just around that minor variance part of it. You're talking about 10%, but that's only about residential stuff. That's not for, let's say if somebody was building an agricultural building and there's a minor variance needed because it's too close. That's not that piece. That's only residential this speaks to, is it?
Yes, thank you. So from our understanding to date, this proposal is specific to residential uses in urban settlement, service settlement areas specifically.
And if I may, then just follow up on that. You're talking about, or you mentioned about heights of things in there as well being 10%. And I guess I'm thinking of in residential areas where people build like bigger garages? Would that be part of that, or is this only towards the residential piece of that?
Yeah, so the exact regulations will be detailed further. We're expecting more details around this, but I am anticipating that likely garages will be part of the residential development. So I would expect that we would likely see something around height provisions for garages included in that. But again, we'll have to confirm and we'll monitor that as we get more info.
Okay, 'cause that's something I always hear kind of complaints in the urban areas about garages being built in like bigger garages or taller garages and stuff like that. But anyway, so, okay, thank you.
Consent application C46 of 2025.
Okay, thank you. I'll be brief on this one, it's a little more straightforward. So this is consent C46 2025. Subject property here is 83649 McNabb line. The applicant is Greg Fritz and owner Robert Vanderbeek. Next slide, please. So the purpose of this severance application is for the recreation of the original parcels. In this case, the severed land is approximately 101 acres in size, of just agricultural land, and the retained land also 101 acres in size, consisting of agricultural land, a house, and 3 storage sheds. And next slide, please. There's just an aerial photo of the subject property here. So on the left-hand side of the photo in red is the proposed severed parcel, and then to the right, outlined in blue, is the proposed retained, which contains the existing house and sheds. And next slide, please. So subject property is zoned HE1, so general agriculture and natural environment, in the Huron zoning bylaw, and designated agriculture and natural environment in the official plan. So this application is weighed against the agricultural consent policies. In this case, they are proposing to recreate the original 100-acre lots, so lot 14 and lot 15, that have been merged on title over the years. Both lots meet the minimum size requirements, and there's no proposed changes to the current farming practices on the property. No comments or concerns were raised from agencies, members of the public, and no concerns raised from staff at this time. And next slide, please. Just a couple photos of the subject property. So I've got that retained here. You can kind of see the existing house and a couple of the sheds in the background there. And next slide. And then just an image of the severed agricultural land. And next slide, please. So as the application is consistent with the PPS, conforms with the county and Huron East official plans, and complies with the Huron East zoning bylaw, the application is recommended for approval with the attached standard conditions. And any questions on that?
Can I get a mover and a seconder for this application? Moved by Councillor Stepler, second by Councillor Newell, that the Council of the Municipality of Huron East acknowledge the report of Huron County Planner Shay Stahl dated November 18, 2025, and has no objection to consent application C46 of 2025, provided the conditions as outlined in the planning report are met. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thanks very much, Shane. Reports and recommendations of municipal officers, Seaport District Community Center HVAC system. Forget what the amount was, $30,000 or $40,000 or something. Any comments or questions before we do a motion? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Lisa, maybe. Lisa, could you explain, on the one quote, there was 2 different machines quoted. And the other one, there was only one. I mean, the numbers don't mean anything to me. Are they bigger output, or can you have any more information on that?
I think the one that the Carter Grant had quoted, the second one. I think it was just a similar one, it's just a different brand that was available. Or a bigger model, I guess it is, they're both the same, a Lennox model. But the two that was quoted from Seabright, Plumbing, Heating and Carter Grant were comparable to the unit that's there presently. So they're both the same, so replacing what we need.
Councilor McGrath.
The only difference is, a 410A is being ruled out eventually. It'll still be available for a while. The second unit price here is for the new refrigerant. So the machines are made differently, the units were made differently, that's part of the reason. How many tenders did we send out? Did we invite tenders out, or did we just send up the two?
We just ended up with two.
Did we send out more, like to?
We didn't send out a tender, we just called.
So we all.
But it was not a formal tender.
No, but how many people did we call? Like, I mean, we've got. Bristol who did it originally, and we've got a bunch of people. I just wonder how many people we called it.
That I'm not aware of, but that was the building and property maintenance coordinator that looked for the prices.
I just think we should have sent out more tenders, or seeded, mailed it out, or sent more out anyways. Like there's. Alton's, there's, Ferguson's, there's Goddard's, there's Hayden's. There's the big outfits out there that, I'm not saying the price would be better, but I would, you know. I would like to see more tenders sent out than just. Now, I don't, again, we don't know how many went out, but it's a bit, the way I'm sort of reading it here, it's almost like we've called 2 or 3 or 4 people and that was enough, but. That's a lot of money to spend for just 2 or 3 people to tender on, that's all.
I agree. If in fact there was only a couple letters sent out. If I remember correctly, Lisa, it came in quite a bit under budget of what
Yes.
we had thought.
Yeah.
Where did the budget figure come from?
It was budgeted for 60,000 and it came. So it came 23,100 less than what we had budgeted for.
Where did the budget figure come from? Do we know?
I don't, it's just off the capital plan that was there.
Deputy
I
Mayor?
guess I'm kind of at a point where I don't wanna accept this, so I don't. I would like to see a more formal process done.
Okay, instead of not accepting, could we table it until we get some answers? Because if we find out that we sent out at least a half a dozen requests for quotes, and for whatever reason, businesses just chose not to, do we want to throw the whole thing away? Where in fact, this may be the result that we were looking for. And if we don't get the answer we're looking for, when that information comes back, then council can make a decision to do something different. Is that acceptable?
I just feel there is enough information here, so there isn't. What we've got here in front of us, like size wise, things like that. I don't think it's thorough enough, and with that kind of money, I don't want to accept it without knowing a lot more about it. So.
Councilor Fisher and then Councilor McGrath.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How urgent is this, please? Like, if we go out another month or we're into January, does that, and the machine goes down, are we up the creek?
As I've indicated in the report, we have been advised that it is at a high risk of failure. It is showing signs of deterioration of current unit that we are operating with.
And then how did it? Don't we do it, or do we do annual inspections, et cetera, et cetera? Are there other units in our empire to be concerned about them? As well. Thank you.
Councilor McGrath.
Knowing a little bit about this, rooftop units are undeterminable. They can go 5 more years, it can go 5 more minutes. Nobody knows. It's just one of those deals, because it is commercial piece of plant or commercial plants. I'm wondering if the $60,000 budget came from replacing both units. Because there's a unit on the front of the building as well. Because I can't see the budget being out that far, $60,000 for one rooftop unit. Knowing what the price of them are. So I'm wondering if, because there's 2 rooftop units on that placement, well, 2, and then there's of course a new one on the side of the new addition, but I'm wondering if that, but budget number was put in there for replacement of both, and that's why it's 60,000 versus like 23,000 isn't a lot. It's not like 3 or 4 or 5,000 bucks, it's a lot of money there.
Councilor Stefan?
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. I don't, I'm on the other side. I think we just go ahead and do it. We've already acknowledged in minutes that if there's a failure and there's a carbon monoxide leak. And somebody does that and we decide to defer it or table it for later. That puts us in a pretty precarious position that we knew about it and we voted against it. I do agree with maybe tendering this or going to a different thing, but we're coming in under 50% under budget. We have a local company who's ready to do it ASAP. I think we go ahead and get it done. And, you know, maybe tighten our policy on what we do with a minimum dollar amount for projects going forward. Thank you.
Councilor Deal.
Do we not have to follow like an RFP? With something like this?
Great question. We should have one based on different dollar values of the process we go through.
We do have a procurement policy, and so requests for quotes in situations like this is part of that policy. I think it's a minimum of 3, but in cases where you can't get more than 3, you go with the 2 that you get.
Is that like actual letterhead sent out to companies, or is it
It's
phone calls?
phone calls, letters, both.
I just thought it had to be
Yeah, the request for proposals or quotes is a little bit different than your tendering process, so it's the terminology, but tendering's a lot longer as well, so you have a longer period to get those submissions in.
Right.
And so this would just be a request for quotes so that the work can be completed as it's needed work that needs to be completed.
Thank you.
Councilor McGrath?
Councilor Gill brings up a good point, and the tender here at 41 and then the other one at 36. Are we comparing apples to apples? You can't get anything over verbal comment on the phone. You should almost be taking the model number of that unit and then giving the model number of that unit to whoever wants to tender, because they can compare that model number to what they're gonna compare it with when they replace it. And that's when you get your right BTU, your right, everything is, and then everybody's playing on the same playing field, that's all. So I think that's something that, you know, I can't tell you, or I can give you the number over the phone, but I'd sooner have it in black and white on a piece of paper, and this is what I'm holding on, this particular size of unit. I can go with a different brand, but I need a certain amount of BTU, a certain amount of cooling, you know, minimum type thing. So I think that's, yeah, I guess it's a pretty loose, to me, it's a pretty loose standard. Put up all over the map.
Well, and I think council has some concerns. So Lisa, I'm assuming you're not the person that made the phone calls. You're just reporting back from someone who informed you. And the person that made the phone calls isn't here to answer questions to council. That's kind of a little bit of a stumbling block. We could get answers, or we can draw things up. Would council be more comfortable in tabling this till the next meeting so that you get more information? We're talking 2 weeks. Hopefully we don't have a problem in that 2-week period. What's your desire? Councilor McGrath?
I think we table it and just, and to be fair to everybody, tendering it and find out how many more who maybe were at contact and did not respond. That'd be great to know, you know, but if we send out 3 tenders, we got 2 back, okay. When we send out 6 and got 2 back, that's a little different, that's a little different spin on it, in my opinion. That's all. And also to maybe get a little better bearing on where that $60,000 figure came from to start with, because was it intended to have both done at the same time?
It's a fair question. At the end of the day, we would like a little bit more information before we spend this amount of money. I think everybody's under that impression. Councilor Fisher?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would it be beneficial? Our next council meeting is not for 3 weeks. We're having a budget meeting. Could we touch on it in 2 weeks at the budget meeting just to speed things up?
For one item, does that affect that schedule?
So the budget workshop isn't, I guess it just changes the intent of the budget workshop as it's supposed to be more of a draft presentation of staff's budget, not so much of decisions and business at the table, so you're just changing the intent really of that meeting. It would be more than a special council meeting if we kind of just changed. I mean, it could be done, it's just. I would note though, our director of community services will be going on vacation soon, so I'm not sure if she'll be able to get in contact with all of the information that needs to be provided in the report in a week, so.
Okay, so let's get some clarification first of all of what we would like Lisa to ask whoever requested the information for council. We want to know how they compared the unit that we're supposedly been offered to the one that's there, how well it compares in model and size. How many quotes were requested from various companies to the ones we got back. What other items were we looking for? Or were those the only two things that were of importance at this point, Councilor McGrath?
I think where they, to do a little research into where that $60,000 figure come from to start with.
Okay, and where the budget figure came from to begin with. So those are the three things that if we can get that information back. Now, in fairness, if Lisa gets that information, I can certainly talk to the CEO if in my opinion, everything appears to be good and council will like the results, I'm probably gonna make the decision, we'll just wait till the next council meeting and then we can move forward with it. Because if we find out we did send out 6 and they all came back and the person that actually phoned knew what they were talking about, they knew the model, the size, and everything is comparable, then everything is probably fine. It's just maybe a lack of information in the reporting that came to us this evening. If it looks like we maybe missed a few steps, then we maybe just start the process over again. So that we make sure it's done to our satisfaction. Okay, so I'll let Lisa get the information to Jess can get a hold of me. I'll make a quick determination. Either way, there will be a report back to council one way or the other. Because council hasn't made a decision as of yet and won't until they get that information. Okay, so I need a mover and a seconder to table at this point. Councillor Dalton, Councillor Fisher, all those in favor? Motion carries. Loan application. The EMS portion of the Brussels Fire Hall. Pretty sure we've already agreed to this, we just have to do the official,
We have
right?
to do the official bylaw, so it's just a cover report so that there wasn't any concern that we're bringing the loan application bylaw forward, so it's
Okay.
just officially submitting that application.
So this is for the joint operation in Brussels between EMS and the Fire Hall. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor,
Question.
oh, go ahead, McGrath.
Another debenture.
Yeah, except for that, this is where it's on our books, but being paid for by the county.
Like selling your kid's future.
No, it's costing us nothing at all, Councilor
No, it
McGrath.
still costs us.
It costs us nothing, Councilor McGrath.
We can
I
argue.
checked on that this afternoon.
Is that right?
Yes, I did.
Congratulations.
Good.
Gentlemen. Anyways,
All right, I just hate the word debenture because it's just. How do you come up with a tax decrease in life? Want me to commit more payment than.
can I get?
Well, you need therapy? No.
Moved by the deputy mayor, do I have a second? Second by Councilor Morrison. That the council of the municipality of Huron East approve the authorization of the loan application of the EMS portion of the Brussels Fire Hall expansion. All those in favor? And motion carries. Acquisition of land for extension of Anderson Drive in Brussels Ward.
So we are looking at completing that plan of subdivision for the Brussels, subdivision, sorry for lack of better words. So just to get that completion done, we just need to officially acquire the road that runs behind the back piece there. So it's just one of our legality steps in order to able to complete that plan of sub.
Okay.
And it's just an information report to again coincide with the bylaw for the acquisition of the road.
Deputy Mayor.
If I can through you to Jess. Jess, so is that the piece of land that joins Anderson and the other street together.
I believe Sean would have better exact knowledge. I think it's the other portion of the vacant land now.
So, the bylaws that are, being presented tonight are to connect Sports Drive with the subdivision.
They said
Yeah,
that,
is that, those, that section of road was never initially part of that planned subdivision. So when planned subdivision was already historically there in Brussels, and we just built it. And then now to make that connection with Sports Drive, that was never originally part of the subdivision. And these bylaws are creating that road allowance.
okay, gotcha, thank you.
Oh, I'm lost here. Okay. The parade. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the Seaforth Lions Club Santa Claus Parade request? Moved by Councillor Chartrand, second by Councillor Steffler, that the council of the municipality of Huron East approve the Seaforth Lions Club request to close roads for the 2025 Santa Claus Parade. All those in favor? Motion carries. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the Brussels Santa Claus Parade? Councillor Morrison, Councillor Newell, that the council of the municipality of Huron East approves the request of road closures for the Brussels Santa Claus Parade request. All those in favor? Motion carries. 10.3 County of Huron bylaw to provide for control of nuisance coyotes. This was an information thing. Is there anything that anybody needs discussed at this point? Councilor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for getting this, Jessica. I was aware of this bylaw. What I was hoping for was a call of coyotes, not a just taking out nuisance coyotes. And since our last council meeting, my next door neighbor, who they have a lovely golden lab, that coyotes have been approaching the back fence and trying to entice Bauer to come out and play. She informed us yesterday. And my wife saw on Facebook, and I forget where she said it was posted, there was people on a walking path somewhere in C4/Tucker Smith, and coyotes were coming out and watching them as they were out on the walking path. I don't know if anybody else saw that on Facebook. Where was it that the police council
Where it was, but they were there walking, they came like pretty bold, they came right out, almost like a pet. Right on.
Yeah, I'm concerned about something happening. That's why I brought it up last meeting about having a call, but is that up to us or the province? I don't know how to deal with it, Mr. Mayor.
It would be up to the province, and I don't remember when this exactly happened, Bob, but I know when the current bylaw at the county got put in place. They did have someone there from the MNR, and that question was asked about doing culling from time to time. And I can't remember the official term that is used, but apparently coyotes, if in fact you end up killing a bunch of them off, they end up having a lot more pups the next year. So they have some sort of method of kind of regulating their own population. And so they said that didn't serve a purpose, but that they had no problem with the fact that when we knew we had a problem in a particular area, whether it was animal killing or whatever, that's why we were able to pass what we were allowed to. But as far as going out and trying to remove them from an area, they kind of stated that apparently just doesn't work.
Thank you.
Councilor Deal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's multiple, especially in Gray. They're out every weekend or during the week, even hunting them. They're constantly culling them, like different groups of hunters and stuff. So they're working on, there's always, private guys out there working on it. They don't get much or anything for it, I don't think anymore. But They've always got dogs out in the bushes and stuff. They try.
Do I see another hand down here? Counselor Chartrand.
Yeah, I'm curious then, so if we do have the situation where these are in our area now, I would consider them to be a nuisance. How does this bylaw take care of a nuisance coyote?
You gotta kill something or attack it first. Before someone can shoot it.
I also thought there was a provision where if they were on residential properties, that also qualified for calling and having them addressed. Am I incorrect on that?
Well,
I have it up here, but.
oh, I know that day when I asked it county, Susan quoted that right off, because I did say it was encroaching on residential areas.
Right.
As well.
Yeah, and I thought that was a rule that
Yeah.
if in fact, if you've got witnesses that can verify that they are encroaching on residential, I do believe you are allowed to hire someone at that point to try and deal with the situation. I don't have Facebook. I can't tell you what it said. I'm not sure I can take Facebook as the justification for hiring 100. But if we do have actual complaints of people that witness them when they're on the residential property, I would say we probably have justification to do something at that point.
So what do I tell my neighbor, please?
They need to be able to confirm a sighting that we would consider to be
Nuisance.
nuisance or health hazard, something along that line.
You can take pictures now with your cell phone.
Perfect,
You got them,
yes.
then you've got the evidence, right?
Yes,
And then bring it to the office, send it to the office?
I would say that's step number one, don't send it to me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so we are down to council member reports and deputy mayor, county council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At our last county council meeting, we had received a letter from Hader's Turkey Products. Looking for a letter of support. They have an issue with some of their immigrant workers receiving letters that they may have to leave or go home. The workers themselves had submitted work permit applications, but the applications have been delayed due to an absence of approval and principal letters. It sounds like it's just a bunch of paperwork that hasn't been finished in time, so their leaders are looking for a letter of support from the county to kind of speed that along or helping their problem with these letters being sent out. We renewed our agreement with Arid and Burles as our integrity commissioner, closed meeting investigator and municipal ombudsman for an 18-month term. Also that same day was the ambulance station grand opening in Brussels. I attended that. Director of EMS Jeff Horseman was there to give tours of the new ambulance station and looked very well. It's can become a 24-hour station. It's built big enough to handle that. I also looked in on the expanded Brussels Fire Hall as well and talked to some of the firemen there, and it looks quite nice in there as well. On November the 12th, I also attended the CIBC, the bank that's closing in Brussels. They had an information night that night. Some of the reps were there from CIBC to walk people through the changes that are happening. The branch will close in May. The accounts will move to Listowel unless you want to move somewhere else. There is an outside chance that CIBC might maintain an instant teller somewhere in Brussels, but that is not for sure. They're just looking into it. Talking to many of the people that night, an instant teller would go a long way. And as one of the residents said, until you can show me how I can get money out of my phone, we need an instant teller. So thank you. That's everything I got.
Good point. Thank you. Are there any other boards, committees, meetings, or seminars that anybody wants to report on? Seeing none, are there any requests by members of the committee? Councilor Steffer.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a request for staff to have an update on the lease situation, the doctor situation, just the family health team that we had information about joining the board, just a full update on where we're at with family health team with the new doctors, et cetera. I'd be done. Thank you.
I can give a brief update. We have been in contact with the doctors. We are starting to open up the negotiations for next year's rental agreement. I don't think we anticipate much changes. I have recently talked to, Dr. Purvisel, who was stating some discontent wanting rent reduction. I did note that we had the request for the board and we haven't received any feedback from that. I haven't had any follow-up to date, so the request has been made again, or the statement again on that as well. And I've also requested that if they want anything in particular to come with a specific request. So just a blanket reduction doesn't necessarily give us enough information on what's being looked for from the doctor team. So I've asked if they have a specific request to come to council with that as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fire alarm. In August, when my daughter was home from England, she was out walking one evening with a friend and they saw green lights flashing coming towards them. And they're coming, the lights were, Courtney's going north, they're going south, and a car in front of two firemen trying to get to the fire hall just dawdled along and took their time and were impeding the progress of the firemen. Coming home from curling on Thursday, going south on North Main. Same thing happens again. The gentleman driving me pulls over to the right. I say, Aaron, what's going on? And he says, there's firemen behind me going to the fire hall. Car in front of us dawdles along. The fireman made Aaron thought an unsafe go around of this car that was dawdling. But they had no concept, it sounds like, of what the flashing green light meant, so. I know, before Mr. McRoberts left, there was some talk amongst us of having a lower decibel fire alarm. And I wondered if that's a work in progress or fell through the cracks, and then I would request that on our new website, there is a page or a highlight or something at the bottom or whatever that reminds people frequently what the green flashing light is, please. And if that could go out in our next mail out we do for taxes or whatever next year, and in all of our mail outs to our constituents, just reminding them to be aware and what it stands for. So I think there's a lot of new people in the community that they're used to living in the city. They're not aware of that firemen have to get to the fire hall. Please, thank you.
Okay, not a problem. We could consider a bylaw to stop dawdlers.
I would just point out that
Recognize a couple of us.
the green lights don't give the firefighters any more advantage, like they can't speed, they can't go around.
Oh,
So,
I'm very aware of that, but this person was so frustrated, it sounded like.
but also in terms of where it stands in progress, I would say right now the fire department has been focusing on their training certifications. So that's taken a lot of work from our fire chief, and that's been his top priority at this point, so.
Oh, definitely, I know, I realize.
Not at the top, but I would also highlight that we do also have a newspaper article that goes in every newspaper of the citizen. 4 little slots, so we can definitely put the green flashing light kind of education in that, so. It gets distributed to everybody through the citizen paper as well. It's what's happening in Huron East, where we have 4 spots where we can always maintain or update information through that as well.
Frequently, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
But you are correct, Councillor Fisher, in the fact that we were going to see if there was a possibility of a lower decibel one that would allow us to run it. I would just suggest at this time that we will pass that on to Steve, so that he's aware of the fact that that was our thought process. I'm not gonna ask him to put it ahead of anything else, whatever he considers his priorities can be. But if he thinks that's a priority, he can move it up the list as he sees fit. Councillor McGrath?
That you're gonna hire sound person for that particular job.
My understanding was the problem with the new service that we had didn't work with our old technology. And then when they got it to work, there was no way to adjust it. But apparently, if we bought something else electronic, you could actually set it for different, decibel levels or volume levels.
And I think that's where you're gonna come into where you're gonna hire somebody who is into that particular.
I think what it came down to was
Call it a
finding,
sound engineer if you want, to call it that. I don't know what you call it, but.
I think it was more finding a piece of electronic equipment that would actually function on the system we have with the call service we're using.
I thought we were back. I thought we had that problem solved with it.
With the old one,
Well, it's just too
but
loud.
the old one wasn't adjustable.
Oh, anyways, I understood it was the decibel level that was just over, not by very much.
Yeah.
The last conversation we had with Mr. McRoberts was that we were just over the limit, like just. And they were gonna take a look at, was there a way that they could muffle somehow the current unit up top to bring it below into the good zone? That was the last conversation that we had about it. Cause they fixed the problem with the communication problem when they changed the, whatever it was. That part of it was working, the actual siren was going off, but it was just over the limit.
Okay, Counselor Stepler.
Yeah, so just on the paper inserts and that, if we could get Stacy maybe just to do some of the social media posts as well, so we're going over really well.
Any other requests by members at this point? Seeing none, any notices of motion? Any announcements, Counselor Chartrand?
A couple things. First of all, I want to make sure that on behalf of the Seaforth Legion, I want to thank the public working guys. Did a good job with the parade. More importantly, the work that they do to put up the veterans banners and to take them down. The families who have purchased those banners are so appreciative of having those banners up, so make sure you thank the crew, because I know it's a little extra work for them to put them up and down, so. Saturday, I attended our local hockey game, and it was a fantastic presentation for Jack Price, who passed away, who was one of our employees. The Seaforth Senators did a great presentation to the family. The wife was there, the kids were there, the grandkids were there, dedicating a shirt to him and all the years of service that he worked at the arena. So it was a really nice touch for the family. Also on Saturday, I attended, there was a retirement party for one of our Seaforth firefighters, Doug Anisett. 42 years with our fire department. They gave him a nice window box with his badges and all the rest of the stuff, and it was a nice presentation. There was firefighters from all of the here. Some firefighters came from other municipalities even, so there was quite a few people at the Legion to honor Doug's retirement for 42 years. And my last comment is, I like the new website. Looks good.
Any other announcements this time? Okay, we will move on to bylaws. The first one is brought back by me, so I'm gonna give a quick explanation, and then if council has any comments, they can. We had a motion put on the floor. It ended up being rejected. The reason I chose to take this action is pretty straightforward for me. I've heard lots of times that people will make comments about government has too many rules, too many regulations, hard to deal with. And I understand the rules and regulations are not always cast in stone, but they're there for a reason when they're written. They maybe don't always capture everything properly, but when someone puts in an application and that application meets Huron East rules and regulations, meets the county's rules and regulations, and meets the province's rules and regulations, and then we say no. I have a hard time looking them in the face and saying we did the right thing. That's just my personal opinion, but on top of that was if I understood the process correctly. For an appeal to happen, the only way the appeal goes forward is if we find someone to help us defend our position. Our planner already said it was valid, so we'd have to hire another planner And they'd have to believe that it wasn't valid. Then you've got to hire legal counsel, which we've already been told is basically costing us $10,000 a day. It's not that the single day costs 10,000, but they say it's 10,000 between their prep time and per day that they do something. I couldn't, in good conscience, see taxpayers paying that money when I felt there was little, if any, chance of the appeal ever being successful. That's why I took this step. I didn't know if any counselors had any questions. And because it's the first time ever, I think the appropriate thing would be to ask for a recorded vote going forward on the bylaw. So if anybody has any questions, I'll certainly entertain them at this point. If not, I do need a mover and a second though. Moved by Councillor Chartrand, second by Councillor Stefler, that be it hereby resolved that bylaw 80 of 2025, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw Z02 of 2025 be given first, second, third, and final reading, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be fixed thereto.
Okay, so a recorded vote has been requested by Mayor McClellan. The first to vote will be Councillor Dalton.
Yes. Yes.
Councillor Deal,
Yes.
Councillor Willoughby,
Yes.
Councillor Newell,
Yes.
Councillor Stefan,
Yes.
Councillor Morrison,
Yes.
Councillor McGrath,
Yes.
Councillor Chartrand,
Yes.
Councillor Fisher,
No.
Deputy Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
and Mayor McClellan.
Yes.
So we've got 10 yes, 1 no. That passes.
So I need a mover and a seconder for bylaw 85 of 2025, please. Moved by Councillor Dalton, second by Deputy Mayor, that be it hereby resolved that bylaw 85 of 2025, a bylaw to authorize the submission of an application to the Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation, OILC, for financing certain ongoing capital works be given first, second, third, and final readings, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. All those in favor? Motion carries. Can I get a mover and a seconder for bylaw 86? Councillor Willoughby, and second by Councillor Morrison, that be it hereby resolved that bylaw 86 of 2025, a bylaw to authorize the acquisition of lands to establish a road allowance for the road extension along Anderson Drive, Brussels, be given first, second, third, and final readings, and signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. All those in favor? Motion carries. Can I get a mover and a seconder for bylaw 87? Councillor Chartrand, Councillor Stefler, that be it hereby resolved that bylaw 87 of 2025, a bylaw to temporarily close portions of George Street, Turnberry Street, Ellen Street, and Ainley Street within the Brussels ward be given first, second, third, and final reading, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. All those in favor? And motion carries. Mover and a seconder for bylaw 88. Moved by Councillor Fisher, second by Councillor Willoughby. That be it hereby resolved that bylaw 88 of 2025, a bylaw to temporarily close a portion of Duke Street and Main Street, County Road 12, within the Seaforth Ward be given first, second, third, and final reading, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. All those in favor? Motion carries. We have a closed session. Can I please have a mover and seconder to go into close? Moved by Councillor Dalton, second by Councillor Newell, that a closed meeting of council be held on Tuesday, November 18, 2025 at 7:49 PM in the Town Hall Council Chambers in accordance with section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 for the purposes of the following matters. Adoption of the October closed session of council meeting minutes. Number 2, proposed or pending disposition of land and personal matters about identifiable individuals. And number 3 is proposed or pending disposition of land. And number 4, personal matters about identifiable individuals. And that the CAO, Jessica Rudy, clerk Megan McCallum, Director of Community Services Lisa Berard, and Director of Finance Treasurer Denise Feeney remain in closed session.